Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
What's up, tennis fanatics, and welcome back to the channel that never backs down from bringing you the absolute chaos, the unfiltered drama, and the explosive controversies that make professional tennis so addictively watchable. If you clicked on this video expecting some calm, measured analysis of forehand technique and serve percentages, you are in for a massive shock. Because what we're about to dive into is hands down the most scandalous, career-threatening, reputation-destroying bombshell to explode at the start of this tennis season. We're talking about accusations so serious they could end careers. We're talking about a verbal confrontation so brutal it left an entire press room in stunned, uncomfortable silence. We're talking about a rising star being publicly called out, humiliated, and attacked by a veteran player who apparently decided that if she couldn't beat the young guns on the court, she'd try to destroy them off it. This is the Donna Vekić versus Eala scandal that has the entire tennis world picking sides. And trust me when I say this story has more twists and turns than a 5-set thriller at the French Open. Let me set the scene for you. The ASB Classic in Auckland, New Zealand. It's supposed to be a relatively low-key tournament, a warm-up event where players shake off the rust from the off-season and start building momentum for the Australian Open. Nobody expected fireworks. Nobody predicted that this would become the tournament where reputations would be shredded and battle lines would be drawn. But that's exactly what happened, and it all centers around two players, Donna Vekić, the experienced Croatian veteran who has been on tour for over a decade, and Eala, the 20-year-old sensation from the Philippines who is rapidly climbing the rankings and making a name for herself as one of the most exciting young talents in women's tennis. Now, before we get into the absolute carnage that unfolded in the press room, we need to talk about what happened on the court, because that's what triggered this entire mess. Eala just delivered one of the most impressive performances of her young career, punching her ticket to the semifinals of the ASB Classic by absolutely dismantling an opponent who had been her kryptonite in previous encounters. This wasn't just any victory. This was a statement win, the kind that announces to the entire tennis world that a new force has arrived and she's not going anywhere. Eala's opponent was a tough, experienced player who had beaten her twice before. Going into the match, Eala knew she had her work cut out for her. This was someone who understood her game, who had figured out how to neutralize her weapons, and who had the mental edge that comes from having already beaten you multiple times. But something was different this time. Eala came out with a game plan, with confidence, and with a level of tennis that her opponent simply couldn't match. The first set was competitive, with both players feeling each other out and testing different strategies. But as the set progressed, it became increasingly clear that Eala had made significant improvements since their last meeting. Her lefty serve was causing all sorts of problems, opening up the court and creating angles that were impossible to defend. When her opponent did manage to get balls back in play, Eala was ready, absolutely pouncing on anything short and punishing it with authority. She took the first set 6-3, and you could see the belief growing with every single point. The second set was where Eala truly showed she had arrived. Instead of being satisfied with her first set lead and trying to play it safe, she came out even more aggressively. She broke serve early, established a commanding lead, and never looked back. Her opponent, to her absolute credit, is a fighter. She's a veteran who has been in countless battles, and she wasn't about to surrender without making Eala work for every point. She raised her level, started finding more depth on her ground strokes, and tried desperately to claw her way back into the match. But here's the thing. Every time her opponent mounted any kind of challenge, Eala had an answer. A blistering winner down the line here, a perfectly executed drop shot there, a serve that clipped the line and left her opponent frozen and helpless. It was a masterclass in high-level tennis from someone who is still only 20 years old. Eala closed out the second set 6-2, securing not just a victory, but her first ever win over this particular opponent. It was a breakthrough moment, the kind that can define a career and signal that a player has turned a corner. In her immediate post-match interview, before all hell broke loose and this became the biggest scandal of the tournament, Eala was humble and reflective. She acknowledged the magnitude of what she had just accomplished, recognizing that beating a player of this caliber and experience, especially one who had beaten her twice before, represented genuine progress. She talked about seeing her level increase, about making improvements in key areas of her game, and about the confidence that comes from finally breaking through against an opponent who had previously had your number. It was exactly the kind of mature, thoughtful response you want to hear from a rising star. Professional, gracious, focused on the tennis. But unfortunately for Eala, her day was far from over. After celebrating her singles breakthrough, she had to immediately switch gears and return to the court for her doubles semifinal. She was partnering with an American player, and together they were facing an experienced Chinese duo. On paper, Eala and her partner had every reason to be confident. They had reached the semifinals and had delivered a genuinely impressive opening round victory over tennis royalty, beating a team that included Venus Williams. The momentum seemed to be on their side. But doubles is unpredictable, and sometimes the tennis gods have other plans. Despite their best efforts, despite fighting hard and leaving everything on the court, Eala and her partner came up short. They lost the match, and with it, their chance at reaching the doubles final. Now, for most players, this would be disappointing but manageable. You win some, you lose some. That's tennis. You dust yourself off, refocus on singles, and move forward. But for Eala, this loss seemed to hit differently. The mixture of emotions from her singles triumph followed immediately by her doubles defeat apparently left her in a vulnerable, emotionally raw state. And what happened next in the press room would test her composure in ways she never could have anticipated. Here's where this story goes from interesting sports drama to absolutely explosive scandal. Donna Vekić, the Croatian veteran who has seen it all in her career, apparently decided that this was the day she was going to publicly call out Eala. And when I say call out, I mean she came loaded for bear with accusations so serious, so damaging, that they could potentially derail everything Eala has worked for her entire life. According to multiple sources who were present in the press room, Vekic publicly accused the 20-year-old Filipino sensation of using unknown substances to reduce fatigue during her matches. Let that sink in for a second. Unknown substances. Fatigue reduction. Those aren't casual observations or minor criticisms. Those are fighting words in the world of professional tennis, where even a hint of impropriety can destroy careers overnight, cost you sponsorships worth millions of dollars, and permanently tarnish your legacy in the sport. Vekic didn't hold back either. Looking visibly frustrated and clearly emotional, she reportedly stated that if winning tennis matches requires cutting corners, she would rather lose with her integrity intact. She went further, labeling Eala's performance as unprofessional and fundamentally dishonest. This wasn't some subtle jab buried in a lengthy interview. This wasn't a passive-aggressive comment that could be interpreted multiple ways. This was a direct public character assassination aimed squarely at one of the sport's brightest young talents. The press room, which is usually filled with mundane questions about serve percentages and unforced errors, suddenly transformed into a courtroom where Eala's entire reputation was being put on trial. Without warning, without evidence, without mercy, journalists who had come expecting standard post-match interviews suddenly found themselves witnessing what could become one of the defining controversies of the tennis season. Cameras were rolling, recorders were running, every word was being captured for immediate distribution across every tennis news outlet and social media platform on the planet. Now here's where this story takes an absolutely wild turn. Eala, who trained at the Rafael Nadal Academy, where mental toughness is forged in fire, where discipline is everything, and where emotional control is treated like a religion, completely lost her composure. And honestly, who could possibly blame her? When someone questions your integrity in front of the entire tennis world, when they essentially call you a cheater on what should be one of the proudest days of your career, something inside you snaps. The human response is to fight back, to defend yourself, to make absolutely certain that everyone knows these accusations are baseless and offensive. The cameras captured the exact moment it happened. You could see her face change, see the anger flash across her eyes, see her entire demeanor shift from professional athlete to someone who had just been pushed way too far. Eala didn't yell. She didn't throw anything. She didn't storm out of the room like some players might have done. Instead, she leaned forward into the microphone, locked eyes with the assembled media, and delivered a 16-word reply so cold, so cutting, so absolutely devastating that it silenced every single person in that room. While the exact wording is still being debated by lip readers and insiders across every social media platform, the message was crystal clear. It was essentially a verbal uppercut that questioned whether Vekic's bitterness stemmed from her own inability to match Eala's work ethic and dedication. It was the kind of comeback that doesn't just defend against an accusation, but completely dismantles the credibility of the accuser. It turned the tables so dramatically that suddenly Vekic looked like the villain, not Eala. In 16 perfectly chosen words, Eala managed to shift the entire narrative and put Vekic on the defensive. But Eala wasn't done. What came next is what insiders are calling the second shock, the moment that truly broke the internet and had tennis fans around the world absolutely losing their minds. After delivering that knockout line, Eala apparently challenged anyone who doubted her to produce evidence, and according to multiple reports from people who were actually in that press room, she even offered to undergo immediate voluntary drug testing right there on the spot. Let me repeat that because it's so important. She offered to get tested immediately in front of everyone, with no advance notice, no time to prepare, nothing. That is the move of someone who has absolutely nothing to hide. That is the move of someone who knows their body is clean and wants to prove it beyond any shadow of doubt. It was a power play of epic proportions that completely shifted the momentum and left Vekic and her supporters scrambling for a response. Think about the guts that takes. Think about the confidence you need to make that kind of offer in that kind of situation. Most players, even if they're completely innocent, would consult with their team, their lawyers, their PR people before making any public statements about drug testing. But Eala was so confident, so certain of her innocence, and so fed up with the accusation that she threw down the gauntlet immediately. It was a mic drop moment for the ages. By making this offer so publicly, Eala completely flipped the script. Suddenly, all the pressure is entirely on Vekic and anyone else who shares her suspicions. They either need to produce concrete evidence to support their accusations, or they need to shut up and apologize. There's no middle ground anymore. Eala has forced everyone's hand, and now the entire tennis world is waiting to see what happens next. The fallout from this incident is already proving to be absolutely massive. Social media exploded within minutes of the story breaking. Tennis Twitter, which is already one of the most intense and passionate corners of the internet, went into complete meltdown. Fans are picking sides, creating hashtags, posting video clips, and engaging in heated debates about who's right and who's wrong. Some people are defending Vekic, suggesting that if she made such serious accusations publicly, she must have some basis for them. Others are absolutely destroying her, calling her bitter, jealous, and unprofessional for attacking a young player without evidence. The support for Eala has been particularly overwhelming. Fans from the Philippines have rallied around their rising star, flooding social media with messages of support and encouragement. But it's not just Filipino fans. Tennis lovers from around the world are praising Eala's courage in standing up for herself, her willingness to challenge her accuser directly, and her confidence in offering immediate testing. Many are pointing out that this is exactly how an innocent person would respond, with anger, defiance, and a demand for proof. What makes this situation even more complex is the broader context of doping in tennis. The sport has had its share of controversies over the years, with several high-profile players serving suspensions for failed drug tests. The tennis authorities have implemented increasingly strict testing protocols, and players are subject to random testing both in and out of competition. So when someone makes an accusation like Vekic, it carries serious weight and can't just be dismissed or ignored. But here's the thing. Making accusations without evidence is incredibly dangerous and potentially actionable. If Vekic can't back up her claims with concrete proof, she could face serious consequences. The WTA could potentially sanction her for conduct detrimental to the sport. Eala could pursue legal action for defamation if she feels her reputation has been irreparably damaged. Sponsors could drop Vekic if they feel she's creating negative publicity. This isn't just tennis drama. This has real-world implications that could affect both players' careers and earning potential for years to come. What we're witnessing right now is the transformation of Eala from a talented young player into a battle-hardened warrior. She's no longer just the sweet, smiling girl from the Philippines who's grateful to be competing on the professional tour. She's becoming someone who understands that at the highest level of any sport, people will come for you. They will try to knock you down, get inside your head, and undermine your confidence through whatever means necessary. And in that press room, she showed that she has the mental armor to deflect those attacks and fire back even harder. The timing of Vekic's accusations is also interesting and worth examining. Why now? Why after Eala has just delivered a breakthrough victory? Some observers are suggesting that this might be a case of sour grapes, a veteran player who's frustrated by seeing younger competitors surpass her and lashing out in a moment of bitterness. Others wonder if there's been tension building between these two players for a while, and this was simply the moment when everything boiled over. What's particularly striking about this entire situation is how it highlights the intense pressure and scrutiny that young players face in professional tennis. Eala is only 20 years old. She's still developing as a player and as a person. She's navigating the incredibly challenging transition from junior tennis to the professional ranks. She's dealing with expectations from her home country, from sponsors, from fans, and from herself. And now, on top of all that, she has to deal with baseless accusations that could damage everything she's worked for. The response from the tennis community has been fascinating to watch. Several former players have weighed in on social media, with most defending Eala and criticizing Vekic for making such serious accusations without apparent evidence. Some have praised Eala's maturity and composure in handling the situation. Others have questioned the culture in women's tennis that allows this kind of public attack to happen in the first place. Looking ahead, there are several possible outcomes to this situation. The WTA could launch an investigation to determine if there's any basis for Vekic's claims. Eala could be tested, which would almost certainly clear her name if she's innocent, as she claims. Vekic could be pressured to either provide evidence or issue a public apology. The two players could potentially face each other in a future match, which would generate incredible interest and drama. Or this could all blow over as the tennis world moves on to the next controversy. But regardless of how this ultimately resolves, one thing is absolutely certain. Eala has announced her arrival not just as a talented tennis player, but as someone with the mental toughness and backbone to stand up for herself when it matters most. She didn't crumble under pressure, she didn't run away from the confrontation, she met it head-on, defended herself forcefully, and challenged her accuser to back up her words with evidence. That takes serious courage, especially for someone so young. The semi-final match that Eala has coming up now carries even more weight and significance than anyone could have predicted. She's facing an opponent who is experienced and talented, someone who won an Olympic medal and has competed at the highest levels of the sport. Under normal circumstances, this would be a challenging match requiring total focus and preparation. But now, with all this controversy swirling around her, with her name being debated across every tennis platform and news outlet, the mental challenge is exponentially greater. How will Eala handle the pressure? Will she use all this drama as motivation, channeling her anger and frustration into her performance? Or will the weight of everything prove too much, affecting her focus and allowing her opponent to capitalize? These are the questions that make sports so compelling. The human element, the psychological battle that happens alongside the physical competition. What's also interesting to consider is how this controversy might affect Eala's opponents moving forward. If she comes out in her semifinal and absolutely demolishes her opponent, if she plays inspired tennis fueled by determination to prove everyone wrong, that sends a powerful message to the rest of the tour. It says that she won't be intimidated, won't be distracted, and won't be derailed by off-court drama. But if she struggles, if the controversy clearly affects her performance, other players might see that as a potential weakness to exploit in future matches. The broader implications for women's tennis are also worth considering. This incident has once again highlighted the sometimes toxic competitive environment where players are constantly being compared, ranked, and judged. It's raised questions about how accusations should be handled, whether the current system provides adequate protection for players' reputations, and what consequences should exist for making serious claims without evidence. For Eala personally, this is a defining moment in her young career. How she handles the next few days and weeks will say a lot about her character and her potential for long-term success. Champions aren't just made by winning matches, they're forged in moments of adversity, when everything seems to be going wrong, when the pressure is suffocating, and when the easy option would be to give up or lash out. Eala has already shown she won't back down. Now she needs to show she can channel all of this into positive results on the court. The tennis world is absolutely glued to Auckland right now. The battle lines have been drawn. The accusations have been made and forcefully denied. The gauntlet has been thrown down. The only thing left is to play tennis and let the results speak for themselves. Will Eala rise above the drama and deliver another statement performance, or will the weight of everything prove too much to overcome? We're going to find out very soon. What makes this story so captivating is that it's about so much more than just tennis. It's about integrity, reputation, courage, and the price of success. It's about how young athletes handle adversity and whether they have the mental strength to succeed.